Hey there, and welcome to the Alignment Keys. My name is Tina, and today I will be taking you on a tour of the soul contract and doing some channeling for the legendary rapper, or I should say freedom fighter, Tupac Shakur. And I'm very excited about bringing him through. I did not know very much about him, so it's been wonderful getting to know this young man who had much to say and left a long and lasting legacy. So if you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. Please hit subscribe. And on this channel, we go through a lot of soul contracts. I'll talk a lot about ways we can get into alignment and ways we know we're out of alignment. And so I do some shorter videos, and the longer videos are the soul contract readings. If you would like to know more about the soul contract and how I put the charts together, I always put a short introductory video in the description box below. You can also go to my website, thealignmentkeys.net, to learn more about me, the services I provide, and you can also learn about the soul contract there as well. So without further ado, I would like to bring through this wonderful guest that I am so happy that came through, because like I said, he has a lot to say in his short life. He lived a very full life. He died at a very young age, at the age of 25. And again, like I said, he left this great lasting legacy. So who was Tupac Shakur? He was an American revolutionary rapper and actor, widely influential all over the world. He's a symbol of activism and was obviously against inequality. He was born Linn, a parish cook's. And we talk about that on this channel, that the birth name carries throughout the person's life. However, because his mother changed his name at the young age of 1 year old, we are going to be looking at the soul contract of Tupac, because of that name Tupac, because that other name wouldn't have been able to really get the vibrations going to enable him to really start to pick up on those energies. So like I said, he was this, I'm going to bring up his chart, so hang on just a second and let me share my screen before I get too much into the details here. So you can see there he is. There's this little collage I was able to pull down from Shutterstock. They didn't have a really great picture of just him. So this I really liked, because was kind of one of his last records, Are You Still Down? Remember Me. Again, it was extremely poetic in his writings. We will talk about all of that. He had, like I said, a lot to say. Let me annotate my mouse. So this is what the soul contract looks like for him. Now, he was named after, when his mother named him after the age of 1, she named him after this Incan ruler who was executed in Peru in 1781 after this failed revolt against the Spanish colonialism. And he also died at a very young age. There's actually a couple of different episodes in history that reference this name. So what's very mesmerizing to me about that is that they are all part of history. They were all part of this revolutionary revolts. And the reason that they were in history is because they had this long-lasting effect, and it created kind of this expansive energy and this leveling up, I like to call it, of these inequality type issues. So again, for this Tupac at the time of 1781, that was more about the colonialism was widespread from Spain. And again, these were people trying to hang on to their culture and their ideas and to be treated as such. And so what happened was a lot of oppression was happening because we get all of the separateness and people wanting you to conform to their ideology. And so when Tupac's mother named him this, she brought in a revolutionary freedom fighter. So there's no doubt about it when I look at this chart. So he was born in New York in East Harlem, a very, as we know, a lot of disparity there already, you know, sets the stage for this inequality, this, you know, he was there for a reason. You know, none of this is by chance for this young man to have accomplished so much in his short time, bringing out a lot of these issues we're going to talk about. So he is a dominant vibration of 5. So I always talk about the contract. You have these 2 interlocking triangles, this, which we off of the Star of David here, which is based on the Hebrew language. That's how we turn the name here into numbers and bring it down into the chart. And so we always have this physical side, which points to the earth, and then we have our spiritual side, which points to the heavens. So we usually, as I always say, we start out more on our physical side, starting to work through the numbers, because the energies will bring in certain experiences for us to learn and grow from, because all of our lives here are meant to grow and learn from. And I like to bring in these famous people or people who have accomplished a lot in their short life, or what we would consider accomplished a lot, or leave a lasting legacy, because they're kind of these catalysts. And so they have a big job to do when they come in. It's not that they're better than anyone. This is not about putting anyone on a pedestal. We're all the same. We all have a soul and we're all tied to source. And so it's just about what they're trying to accomplish in part as part of their journey here, and to help others as well. And so when I say he's a dominant 5, 5 is tied directly to freedom. Well, you know, he's a freedom fighter. He was, it's all about him, especially in this karmic way, about being able to speak your truth. That's very, very important for people with a dominant 5. And it's also about learning how to step out into your truth in a positive way. And so we have some issues, some conflicting things going on with getting wrapped up in some of the negative aspects of the 5, which can be a recklessness, impatient, a level of arrogance. And we all have this stuff when we have these numbers, the positive and the negative. When we have it in physical karma, it's going to come in more in the negative side, because it's meant for him to come into the positive side of this number. And because he has it in physical goals as well, I always talk about we're given, we choose, I guess I should say given, we choose the karma we want to play with, and we choose the talents we want to be able to overcome any of this karma. And then we have these physical goals, the reasons that, you know, push us, get us out of bed in the morning. And so for Tupac, this is really about him learning lessons of they will manifest abuse in their lives to overcome it. We know there was a lot of abuse going on, you know, bullying. You know, we'll talk about his mother when we get down to the 13.4 here. But again, this is stuff that manifests because it's about him being able to exercise this ability to write. This is somebody who is to come into this very psychic persona, be able to write, connect with source, and to write what he is being given to write. And of course, he was this prolific writer. He, a lot of his messages, you know, I read a lot of his stuff and I could spend hours and hours on it because there's such deep meanings to a lot of the things he said. And I do have a few things in my notes I do want to point out. So again, you know, the great thing about the fives is it gives him this great sense of courage and strong-willed, and it gives him this, he's really pulled to speak the truth with this number. It's hard for a person to hold back. Now, again, he could be, from the fives, we can see a lot of fear of persecution, which I know he's struggled with, obviously being a young Black man in America. There's a fear of persecution. It goes with the territory. We're aware of it, and those are changes that we need to make to bring about that, where people feel safe. They're not measured by what they look like. This is something that we need, and he was here to bring it out into the ethers, to speak it, because speaking it is part of it, getting it out into the universe so that we can address it. So, like I said, he was this wonderful freedom fighter. The issue with the fives is the fives, a dominant five, is also all about learning to take care of the vessel that you have been given here. We come down into these bodies and we are given one body. So fives can be very sensitive. So we know, being that he has eights, I want to mention that as well. Eights are very, this was a very, very sensitive man. And fives would also make him sensitive, even more so than others, as far as, you know, if he was doing drugs or things like that, his body, it would be more hard, more difficult, I guess I'm trying to say, for his body, because he's meant to learn the preciousness of it in this lifetime to be a dominant five. And it's also about learning movement, and it gives him this great flowing energy, and that movement and flowing energy you can hear in his lyrics, and how he can rap the lyrics to the songs. And so this is this wonderful psychic and creative energy. And I think he did, in a short life, a really good job of, because sometimes when you have fives in karma, it was great that he had it in five in goals as well, because that really pushes him at a soul level to write. You know, they're great writers, and speech, you know, it's connected to the speech. And a lot of people with fives and physical goals will do some type of writing, because it just is in their subconscious to do that. Whether it's journaling, it doesn't mean they're going to be somebody like a Tupac, but they could just do journaling or just writing down their thoughts, doing their own poetry for themselves. They're just compelled to do that. So, and again, and it's great pioneer energies, and it gave him the sense of being able to, I should say, it's pioneering energies, but also taking things to the next level. So with fives, what they can do is he can take something like rap, but take it to its whole new level. And I think he did that very well, just by what I was reading about him and some of the awards and things that he was given. He took it to the next level. And you see that with these older souls, I call them, people who accomplish a lot and leave a lasting imprint, is they carry a lot of this knowledge from past lives. So again, he had to be careful, again, of the negativity from others. Fives can be sensitive and they need a lot of space clearing. So he could get himself in trouble because he, again, depending on who he's hanging around with and what's going on there, he can take that. He's like an empath that can absorb that negativity and almost act it out. So a lot of times they will shock themselves by the trouble or things they get into, because it's not who they really are. And what they don't understand is that they're taking this on from others, because if they don't know it, and this is something that he was saying to me, because I was like, well, you're so sensitive, but yet you were putting on this persona, which we'll talk about with the sevens. And he said, no, it was more of, he goes, I could feel I was getting pulled into that negativity and the stuff, and yet I was struggling on breaking out of it. And so a person like him would need a lot of alone time so that he could clear his energy. And I'm not sure that was something he said he wasn't really doing that a lot. So that was, I did want to talk about, it's no mistake that with the path that he was on. And like I said, it's the soul contract that he had. His fifth and final, we see the fives here, his fifth and final album was released after his death. It was called The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, under the stage name Machiavelli. And so I thought this was absolutely fascinating. This is something. And there's a reason why he is still, because he's a Gemini. Gemini is the 7's energy, 5s are the Aries energy. But what I mean by this, he would have been 50 now. And this was 25 years ago. So I wanted to, again, he had been coming to me off and on, but I wasn't as comfortable with channeling somebody, a rapper, somebody who is so different from me. So I just had to learn how to kind of let go of my own beliefs, and then it would start to come through as to the message that he was conveying, and it was just all very wonderful stuff. So, and then this album peaked at #1 on the billboards as the top R&B hip hop album, not surprising. So Machiavelli, 7s, he has this in his spiritual talents, but I talk about 7s a lot. This is very magnetic. This makes great actors. I talk about that a lot, especially when you have it in spiritual talents, because it makes you even more magnetic. People are drawn to you. People were so drawn to this young man. He knew people all across. Celebrities loved him, lots of different people. It was amazing, all of the different connections that he was able to make in his young life. But 7s can be about the hidden self. And it was part of this. He was very sensitive, but they make great actors because they can become someone else. And it's this Gemini energy, this 2 sides, this 2 faces, where they're one face because they're not ready. We've got this 5s with the fear of persecution, of being true to who he really was at a soul level. So he was taking on this persona of the Machiavelli. I looked up Machiavelli as to why I was drawn to that. And he's like, well, you got to look up Machiavelli. Okay, Machiavelli means psychic power, believe it or not, which the 5s are tied to this very much psychic ability. So he had this great psychic ability, and it's playing out in everything that I'm seeing here. Now we'll talk about, well, if he was so psychic, what happened? The issue with 5s is sometimes they're so psychic and it comes so quick, they discount it, especially when they have it in 5s. They discount their true feelings. And we'll talk about one when he was ambushed, the first time he was shot. He talked about having the sense that he didn't want to do it, but and 5s can be a little bit of this people pleaser as well. You'll hear me talk about that. And so he didn't want to let down the people. He was offered like 7,000, which is here tied to the 7s. And we're going to talk about 12 3s, which are tied to money, which drives a lot of his decisions. And that's all set up for him to work through in this lifetime. He ends up getting ambushed and shot that first time, his first revolutionary kind of manifesting this abuse in order to overcome it. So he felt it was a setup. I will guarantee you it was a setup. If he felt that, he's psychic, that is the truth. I will take that as there was some setup going on. I felt a lot of, he said, jealousy around him. And this is the issue too, where you have, it's can be difficult to unite against bigger causes. If you're struggling with some of this petty stuff that we get wrapped up in, money and fame and those types of things. So he was struggling a little bit with that amongst his own friends and people he knew. And we'll talk a little bit about the 8s and how they can be a little bit led into this. They struggle sometimes really knowing who to trust. They can have, and the 2s can make, this is a judgment thing. And so we can have this little bit about blinders, him being so sensitive about who's good and who's bad, and really being able to see through that. No matter, even if he was psychic, like I said, he would discount that and he would poo-poo it away. So again, I want to talk about stay on the 5s a little bit here. At age 23, which 2 and 3 is 5, in 1994, that was when he was ambushed. So that ties in with this karmic 5s, like I thought it would. Again, he felt it was a setup. I totally believe that was the case as much, unfortunately. So let's talk about this 12-3 as a super great tense. This is where he wants to make a lot of money. He's got this great sex appeal that comes with the 12-3. The 12 is all about love, the act of love. And he does have a great ability to share love, to see love from all aspects. Where he gets a little bit, this can be a little bit of, because it's such an expansive energy, you have to be very careful about positive or negative. The 12s can be very much a lot of judgmental energies, a lot of anger. He's meant to, 5s can generate, like I said, this abuse. And so he's meant to really learn about what to do with all of this because he internalized a lot of that anger. And you have to be careful because you will manifest it on the outside, because we talk a lot about how law of attraction works based on your thoughts process. So again, though very understandable, being raised in the environment that he was, his mother was a Black Panther. We'll get more into that when I do the 13-4, which is tied to his mother and the divine feminine. So we'll talk about the 12-3. This gave him this great thirst for knowledge, to really delve into learning as much as he can. 12-3s, they just love to learn, and he was no different. When they moved to Baltimore, when he was in high school or middle school, they moved, and he ended up in 10th grade. He went to the Baltimore School of Arts. So people had seen this potential in him. And I watched a video, kind of more of a biography of him, and they talked to a lot of these teachers from that school, and he really flourished there. He was the acting and doing art and his poetry and writing and they were just blown away by him, and they knew he was going to be something very, very great. I mean, they just said, when people have that it factor. So he was very intuitive and creative. This also gives him another level of being intuitive and creative. And it also was about his expression. And again, the 5s were about him learning that expression of truth. And this was also about him learning how to express himself. Now, I do want to talk about like I said, the 12s on the negative side can be that anger, judgmental energies. The 3s is tied to Mars and communication. So this can trip him up a little bit, because 3s can be tied on a negative aspect to the violence, to warring, to, how Mars, when it's triggered, it can be wonderful, aggressive action. It can be great leadership. This also is tied to sex. You have to be careful with the 12-3, because too many partners, I talk about that as well, can throw you out of balance because of the 5s being so sensitive to others' energies. And this is this wonderful expansive energy. He ended up selling 75 million worth of records. 5 is that 12, adds up to that 12, which is that expansive energy. So on the negative side, the threes can also be tied to this what we call poverty to wealth consciousness. So it's a worthiness issue that he was here to also work on. And making a lot of money, I do say the more you feel your worth, a lot of times the more you will make money, but there's a little bit of a two-sided coin to that. Some people who have a lot of outer wealth don't have any inner wealth. It's really about balancing the two. So I want to make that very clear, that just because somebody has a lot of money doesn't make them very wealthy emotionally. There's two sides to it. There's the emotional component and the money component. And so he was learning and growing with that as well. But I said that he does have that improper use of force, violence, and being raised where he's being pushed against, especially somebody with these numbers. He will have that wanting to push back, that resistance, because he gets that from the rebelliousness of these eights. That's where that revolutionary rebel energy comes from as well. And so let's go next to his beautiful 13-4 energy. This is this beautiful divine feminine energy. However, it's in a karmic aspect. So this usually means, it can mean when it's in karma, issues with the mother. And we know his mother, she was a Black Panther. She was a very much an activist herself, trying to make things better as well for her race, her ethnicity, and her people, as she would call it. She was in jail when she was pregnant with Tupac. So that's a very interesting dynamic. So for him, we all have a feminine and a masculine side, and he has twos and fives and these eight. Well, he has twos and he has eights, which is this very paternal energy. It's very masculine type energy. And then of course he is very much got a little bit of a distortion, but he's meant to come into his feminine. And so he does in some aspects, because when you are in your divine feminine, I've talked about this in many of my other videos, especially the Leonard Nimoy one, and I'll explain why here in a second. That is where your maternal creator energies, it's like the Empress and the tarot, it's the divine feminine, and every man has a masculine and a feminine side. And the reason you want to come into your divine feminine is because you get more creativity from it. You really get connected and you really put out all these seeds, and it's fertile. You know, if you think of the woman and birthing new ideas, and that created and how we create life. So that's why it's so important, and why he chose that, because when we have it in our karma, we want to bring it forth into the positive side. And he did a pretty good job in his young life of getting into the creative energies of that. His mom set him up for some difficulties because of struggling with drug addiction herself and not being available to him emotionally. I was getting that from channeling him earlier. And it was this, I also want to say, besides it being the divine feminine energy, this is also about unity consciousness, and he struggled a little bit with that. I know he got in trouble. We'll talk about the twos, were a little bit impulsive, where he gets it from the fives and the twos, about putting down, I can't remember, a famous African-American who was married to a white woman, and he had said some things, because again, this can be blocked from the unity consciousness. So there's definitely a need for him to speak out about his situation with colored people in that respect. That's very, very important. I don't want to discount that when I talk about unity consciousness, because unity consciousness is seeing us all as equals, but obviously there's an inequality going on that needs to be dealt with. So I want to make sure that I clarify that I am completely aware that there's work that needs to be done there. And so this is also called the Christ consciousness energies. So let's talk about And the 13, which is tied to this Neptune dreamy type energy, and the 4, which is the sun, is tied to abundance and trusting in the flow, that everything will be okay, that everything will fall into place, and obviously it would be hard, obviously, and he has it in karma anyways, which makes it hard for him to trust and that type of thing, that he's to come into learning how to trust in this life. And so some of the things that were tied, so we're going to talk about this because he had at this last album a picture of Black Jesus. It was a picture of him on the album being crucified. We also want to talk about the fact that he was shot 4 times. He was pronounced dead at 4:03 p.m. and we got the 4 and the 3 here, and that adds up to the 7 here, which is all tied to heart healing. And this is about healing from a unity perspective. So so he was killed, and it's about opening up people's hearts to allow healing to take place. And oftentimes that can happen through a death and struggles. So again, I wanted to mention after his death at the age of 31, which adds up to 4, he was inducted into the Hip Hop Hall of Fame, which was another nod to the work that he did do when he was here. Because like I said, he's got this expansive energy, this 12, he's still expanding even 25 years later. And we'll talk a little bit about what I mean by his legacy is still expanding. And so again, as I said, this was the divine feminine Christ consciousness energy. We've got his last album, the Black Jesus, crucified. So he's like a martyr. I would go ahead and say that can be a little bit of the 8s being a little bit of we'll talk about that here in a moment. But so when you see him on the cross, he's got 4 injuries, right? The 2 hands, the feet, and then Jesus had the cut to the side. So again, totally represents this execution. This whole soul contract was all part of his destiny. This is what he fulfilled while he was here. So I want to make sure. So he also put out a song from the album, Keep Your Head Up. That was 1991. So that would have been when he was 20, this song. And so he also was talking about that there's a lack of empowerment for women. And some of the words he said was, and since we all came from a woman, got our name from a woman, and our game from a woman, I wonder why we take from our women, why we rape our women. Do we hate our women? And so it was part of his anthem for, again, this woman's empowerment, because I said there was many things that he did. If you read his lyrics, it's obvious there's a deeper meaning to all of this. And like I said, the 7s are about, and spiritual talents are about unifying groups, connecting so that they can be stronger in groups, facilitating groups, not controlling them, because Geminis can have a tendency to control. It's about being a leader. 3s are all tied to that leadership energy. So this is why he was a great leader in his young life, was because of these great energies that he had. Now we're going to talk a little bit about his 2s, because that's where a lot of this foolishness to wisdom comes from him. And so this is about him learning about not reacting at a low emotional level and these knee-jerk reactions, which the 3 can have and the 2 can have, acting over emotional, instead of learning from experiences and being able to internalize and being able to adjust at a high emotional level. So he came here to learn a lot about this emotional resiliency. And so he said he was still working on that piece a little bit. It could be very reactive, and it's about learning those lessons and becoming very wise. This is moon energy, but it also can be a little bit of the shadow we talk about, and where he would get shadowed in his psychic ability. And 4s are also about being clairvoyant and sensing the future. So he would be, because he has those in karma, that would give him some blockage as well. And that is by design with this particular chart, for him to kind of play out this role, this freedom fighter role here, to serve a greater purpose. So his soul destiny was 8s. And so that was really all about him emotionally connecting his work to people, especially with his talents being this great ability to act. He was really a fabulous actor, just had this great, could really delve into it, could really, like I said, bring down the energies with having the 5s, because they can embody the part and make it believable. Just wonderful energies he had there. And so these 8s gave him a little bit of, this is a very nurturing energy. It's not very valued in this culture, especially the culture where he was raised, where it's about toughness and guns and the thug life and the things that he was raised with. This is all about being paternal and protective energy. He was very protective with his mom and his family, but it's all about this doing it in this loving, gentle way. So, but the 8s there's a dark side to the 8s, and that is all about being overly involved with your family in a karmic way. So, over involved in the problems of others, not wanting to let go and do what you needed to do for yourself. And so he ended up leaving the Baltimore School of Arts because his mom needed to move to get help for her drug addiction. And she wanted to move back to, I think it was California. And the issue with that is that they want to help and fix people. Well, the problem with that is that didn't really work. People have to be willing to fix themselves. You can't do it for them. And so he wasn't, again, clear on this. This was part of the energies of the 8. It's kind of this martyr energy as well, I talked about, which we all actually benefit from now. A lot of people will benefit from his work and the things that he did. So I want to say, so he was at that Baltimore school, he was studying, poetry, jazz, ballet, so many different things, because the 12-3s had this great capacity to learn. So once he passed on and ended up now it's really still expanding. And I wanted to tell you a few things that are happening that after his passing that are pretty significant. I mean, just besides all the, record sales and things like that, and getting his work out to the public so that they could read the lyrics and connect with that. So the University of California, Berkeley offered a course titled History 98. And keep in mind that 9 and 8 add up to 17. The 1 and the 7 add up to 8. It's his soul destiny. It was the poetry and history of Tupac Shakur. So universities having classes based on his work. That's pretty significant. Harvard University co-sponsored the symposium, All Eyes on Me, one of his records, Tupac Shakur, and the search for the modern folk hero. Some of his unpublished work. So recently, I wanted to bring something that was very recent, March 30th, 2022. One of Shakur's earliest pieces of writing, an unpublished booklet of haiku poetry, was auctioned by Sotheby's, estimated at $200,000 to $300,000. We got his 2s and his 3s there. Hammered down to $302,400. We got a lot of 3s, 4s, and 2s going on. plus a buyer premium. Shakur was only 11 years old when he wrote and illustrated the booklet for Jamal Joseph and 3 other Black Panther Party members while they were incarcerated at Leavenworth Prison. Even at his young age, Shakur's writing dealt with themes such as Black liberation, mass incarceration, race, and masculinity. The booklet features a self-portrait of Shakur sleeping, pen in hand, dreaming of the Black Panthers being freed from prison, and signed with a heart and the phrase, Tupac Shakur, future freedom fighter. And below that it said, a dream is lovely. You drift to another land. I dream in the night. That is incredible. And it just goes to show you that what he's doing now, the legacy that he left, is just amazing. It's just absolutely couldn't be, you know, obviously we would want him, you know, we think we want him to be here, but he's watching on the other side. He's part of this movement, part of this bringing forth these higher vibrations, this unity consciousness, so that we can do our reparations, so we can start to become conscious of what we need to make things right. And so I'm looking at also in Los Angeles going on right now on this website I'm looking at, it's the Tupac Shakur, Wake Me When I'm Free. And again, the 5s were all about freedom. And I thought, oh, that is just so, almost made me cry when I saw that. And it's an exhibit about his, so let me read it to you. So it exhibits the technology, contemporary art, and never before seen artifacts from Tupac's personal archives. So it delves into the greater meaning of his activism, music, and revolutionary art as the exhibit educates and enlightens attendees through a labyrinth of emotions. The 3s, the symbol is the labyrinth here, and the journey of his, through his extraordinary life. So we want to get a few messages from him. So I am going to, I could talk forever about his chart because it is so amazing, all of the things that are still going on and have left us such a lasting effect with this young man. Here we go. Whoops, sorry about that. A little bit of a Mercury retrograde. Sometimes these great energies come into and kind of mess with what I was trying to do there. So I do want to get a few messages in before the video gets too long. And he's pointing me right away to sacred destiny. So let's see what Tupac has to say here. Right. So this beautiful card popped out and it's called Blessings. And he's saying how his life, as he can see it now from his perspective, was nothing but blessings. He had so much to be grateful for. And it's very important that even when we're trying to make change, that we see our lives as a blessing, even through our struggles, because that is how we can make change a little quicker. And so he really wants us to come through with that blessings card because he feels completely blessed with everything that was going on in his life. And so he's taking me to the wisdom of the oracle and he's telling me 2 cards from here. Okay. We've got some wanting to come out. Hang on. Okay, there's one. Someone said not for you anyways. That's funny. So we have chop wood, which is a 42, the 4 and the 2, which was in his chart. That adds up to 6. He did not have 6 in his chart, but 6 is about balance and harmony. And the other one that came out was the 5 and a 1, which is also adds up to 6, that balance and harmony. And it says milk and honey. So again, what he is saying, and it's funny because here is the rainbow, and we have an elephant in a like this milk and honey bathing. And he wants to talk about too at the 5s, clearing the energy, bathing, Epsom salt baths, things that clear energy. But kind of that sweet nectar of life, enjoying life, that it is worth enjoying when we're here, into finding any part of sweetness that we can. Now the chopped wood is about doing your work. Like he said, writing was very important to him, and he found times to write as much as possible, but there would be times, he's saying, when he would get pulled off that track by distractions and things that were not of importance. So he really wants to let us know. It's funny because he's watching now, because you can see there's a face above the rainbow. And he's saying it really is a land of milk and honey. Sometimes we can focus a little bit too much on the negative. And he says, and it's a work in progress. There's, like he said, but it's not about staying at this very negative place. You can still enjoy your life and still make strides to making things better for others. So the next one he wants me to do. We got 3. Here's a 3-3. Again, miracle is coming through. And that adds up to another 6. So for him, we got 666, balance. 666 is not an evil sign either, but it's about, again, him knowing he needed to find balance in his life between that sweet spot of the negativity and the positivity. And so the 3 is, so miracle says the frequency of miracle supports our belief in ourselves as a part of source, and therefore our belief that anything is possible. So it's really important to have the belief that you can do, be, or have whatever it is that you came here to do. It doesn't mean though, like I said, we all came here to learn. We all came here to have experiences based on our soul chart. He wants me to read the miracle one, so I will. So a miracle can be described as an extraordinary event or occurrence in our everyday reality that cannot be explained within our existing paradigm or belief system, and is therefore attributed to a higher or supernatural desire or a feeling of enthusiasm or intense emotion. Passion expresses itself powerfully, like a burning hot fire as it radiates out from our core. This power cannot be hidden. It demands expression. We long for an emotion that is so strong that all we can do is surrender to its power. At the same time, we fear this kind of emotion because we are afraid of losing ourselves, our sense of who we are, in the eye of the passion storm within us. But there is clarity and insight to be found in this storm once we have withstood the heat of the fire and have held our balance in the midst of the blazing inferno. Only then can we move to the center and find the insight at the passion's core. The passion activation reveals this process of powerful insight through its purple core, its demand for expression, the blue around the core, and the storm of intense feelings and emotions all around, represented by the orange, yellow, and red of the lower chakras. It invites us to become aware of and to burn away anything that stands in the way of finding the valuable insights at its core. And although it could be enjoyable to feel these intense emotions, we cannot stay in this heat for very long without getting burned. Oh, I love that. So he's inviting you to take a moment to go inside yourself. What are you really passionate about? Do you love what you do in your daily life? Are your heart and soul engaged? How can you bring more passion into your life? How can you make sure that you don't miss the treasure of insights that lies beneath it? Make your time for daily contemplation to check in with yourself and your passions. Thank you, Tupac. I love that message for everybody. As we got our 666 here. Balance, balance, balance. So the next one he wants me to go to is how we can work our light. Ooh, dance with light. Do something to change your energy. Very, very beautiful card, very feminine card. Again, that movement and flow we talked about with the fives, freedom of movement in the body. Dancing, and we can see his twos up here, that moon energy. And then he's through the gate, the archway, so he's back on the other side. But the dance, the delicate dance with life. Now we're going to look at the wisdom of the hidden realms. Oh, this is awesome. The Rainbow Prince. We just had the rainbow in that other card of milk and honey. So we have compensation and perseverance. And we have the number 26, which adds up to another 6, but which adds up to 8, which was Tupac's soul destiny. And you can see the angel wings in the dark and that rainbow. And you can see this. It looks almost like an elephant trunk or a sword of some sort, or it could be part of his wing. I'm not really sure what that is, but. And again, remember, he was named after the Inca, descendant. And this is very much that, back to that indigenous person with this long black hair, the Rainbow Prince. Very, very poignant, very, very interesting. Thank you, Tupac. So we're going to go to the Archangel Metatron energy. So let me. Here, 51, another 6. That is incredible. 51, and we have the diamond, right? Purity and innocence. Look at the angel card. This doesn't tell you what's going on here. White, purity and innocence. And we all know that the diamond is birthed from intense pressure, right? It's created from intense pressure. Let's see what, I can't believe how many 6s we have here. 2 5s. I love this. 6 6 6 6. Beautiful. And 6. So 1 2 3 4 5 6s, which is 30, which adds up to what I say is 3. And then you had the 33, the miracle. So we've got a 3 3 3, right? Amazing. I love numbers, and they do, because they make sense to me, I guess. Can't hide it anymore. Oh my goodness. Okay, the white ray calls you, asking you to put down whatever troubles you and to be soothed in her neutral embrace. So no harsh colors or tones here. So this gets away from the rainbow. Just pure white to fall back into and feel its purity and innocence. On a bed of soft, downy angel wings. Here within the whiteness, you can reset your dial. And we talked about this with us fives, needing to clear the energy, resetting the dial. I talked about the cap. I'll re-mention that here. If you've been stressed, you can relax. If you've been disappointed, you can recharge. If you feel overstimulated, you can rest. Within white safe ray, you return to 0 point, the starting line, the blank page. Maybe this is time for erasing mistakes. You may have messed up or just overcomplicated something or become so confused you can no longer see the truth. You may just need to stop and do nothing to give yourself permission to just be rather than do. Soft whiteness brings tranquility and grace, offering sanctuary to you now and instant relief to all parts of you. White is a balm to a troubled soul. It is a place to rest and revitalize. It cleanses everything away so that once again you can feel and see your own diamond light within. Polished through every experience you have been through and every lesson learned and gift bestowed. It returns you to a state of innocence that the soul needs in a sometimes harsh world. You are white diamond light in a world that needs to be reminded of innocence, purity, and love. Oh, I love that. Thank you for your service toward the light. Thank you for all that you are and all that you do. You are white light within a human body with wings that expand at every moment you allow love to flow from them. White brings purity and grace to you now. Stop and enjoy its beauty, the still point of silence. Well, that was a wonderful reading. The other one last bit I was getting while I was reading that was about that Christ consciousness energy and the Black Jesus, and bringing that a little bit of full circle with there is a second coming of Christ, but it's through the Christ consciousness in all of us. And that was something Tupac was trying to convey in parts to us. So he wanted me to again say it's coming, but it's through us. It's through the light workers. It's through recognizing that Christ consciousness energy. So thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe, like, and share if you wouldn't mind, please. I have a deep, deep thank you to Tupac for showing me so many things about who he was and what gifts he had to share. And I just loved being able to share them with you. Such a young, loving, kind, masculine energy, but it was very Prince-like energy. So it had this very royal feel to it. And he wants to thank everybody, of course, they always do, for their support, for your love and your support. And you know, he's on the other side, reconnected with his mom there, and looking over his family and the progress of the work that he started here. And we're so grateful for that. What a blessing, just such a blessing. So thank you for being here. Appreciate it so much. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.